Good morning. Welcome to the Science of Mind class here at CSLDallas. I'm Dr. Petra Weldis, and we are continuing on in this fabulous chapter, The Power of Thought. And we're in the section of the Science of Mind that really is about practical application. How do we live it? We've spent time on the theory, but now how do we live it? So we are in this section, it is done unto us. Right, and so just a little bit of a side note, of course, the Science of Mind pulls heavily from the teachings of Jesus as reported in the Gospels, which seem to come very closely in alignment to a lot of the teachings of the mystery schools, all the way back to the Hermetic teachings. There's a lot of Greek philosophy rolled into it, as it was redacted over the time period that it was written and then rewritten, all of that. And so 50% of it comes from the teachings in the gospel, the teachings of Jesus, and the other 50%, Ernest Holmes says, comes from the Hindu scriptures, from the Eastern traditions, and the marriage of the two, right? And so and of course, Ernest Holmes, as so many New Thought authors in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were raised on the Bible. And so there's a lot of wonderful opportunity for us to see that this is actually in the traditions we grew up in, maybe just not illuminated in the way that we understand it in New Thought and in metaphysics. So it is done unto us, right? It's a paraphrase of one of the teachings from the Gospels. It is done unto you as you believe. And we couldn't tell the story. If you'll recall, this is the story of the centurion. The centurion comes to Jesus in the middle of his ministry and says, I know you do healings. My servant is very ill, and will you come and heal him? And Jesus says, great. He looked at his watch, checked his iPhone calendar, and said, I'll be there in a little bit. And the centurion says to him, No, you don't have to come. I know that as I say to the armies, go here and go there, they go here and go there. I don't have to be part of it. I just tell them to do it, and they do it. I understand the authority that I have. And he says to Jesus, and I know you have that same authority. And if you will simply speak your word, my servant will be healed. And Jesus replies, let it be done unto you as you have believed. And this is so important because it's less about, oh my gosh, I have a hidden belief. What's my hidden belief? That's what I believe. What's really, really pertinent in this story is the notion of authority. And our spiritual work is to stop giving authority to those unconscious expectations, unconscious beliefs, and to recognize that we have the authority to believe something new. And when we do so, that authority is the spiritual impetus for something new to be created. And too often, we do not want to own our authority. And we say, oh, well, I'm going to let Spirit decide. No. The law figures out how to do it. But it is our authority to speak our word and to accept that our word is the law unto which it has been spoken. And that's our belief. Not just in the outcome, but also in the laws that we're using. We recognize the authority we have in the process, right? Like the centurion had authority. He didn't even have to say it to the whole army. He really only had to say it to his, Roman version of it, his general or his lieutenant or whatever, go, and then that person tells all the squad leaders, and the squad leaders, right? And the centurion doesn't have to talk to the person, to the individual person. He knows that the authority starts a process, and that process is taken care of, right? This is the authority that we're talking about. It is done unto us as we believe. Do we believe that we have the authority? Do we believe that our thought and our word, with intentionality and acceptance, not acceptance of something bad happening, thinking, oh, Spirit must want this for me. No. Our acceptance of the authority and our acceptance of the good or the thing that we have announced. This is what it means. It is done unto you as you believe. And if we're not paying attention, of course, what has authority are old thoughts and beliefs, old expectations, old stories that we tell about how life works and what's going on. So it is done unto us, and I love this. What a marvelous thought to bear in mind, that it is done unto us. We need not coerce. We do not create the power, but we must let this great power operate through us. Every time we see the word acceptance in the science of mind, it is not a resignation to circumstances. It is an acceptance of the way the process works and an allowing of it to work through us, as us, and to trust the process, right? And to accept that if we have spoken our word, as we have done that, it is actually the law's job to create, to make it happen. It's the law that has the power. Our job is to be authoritative, right? Which is why we don't hope, we don't wish. We may enjoy wishing, fantasizing, imagining. Nothing wrong with that, absolutely. And our ability to speak with authority should give us a hopeful point of view, a hopeful expectation. Thomas Troward calls it a cheerful expectation, which is a hopeful expectation. But we're not hoping when we speak our word, because we're speaking it with authority. The centurion doesn't hope that people will follow his word. He doesn't hope they're going to do what he says, right? That is the way that process is structured. And so this idea that we have this authority because it is done unto us as we believe. And so you always have to pay attention if you're reading along, following along, you have to always pay attention to the italics and the capital, all caps. So just like in text, if it's all caps, he's sort of shouting, don't miss this, right? And if it's in italics, it's a thought that is really important, that requires contemplation, that requires what does this mean? So here in italics, this mind, which is the one mind, which does the operation, right? The mind, the law, the intelligence, those are the principle, those are all the words that go with this aspect of the one. This mind is acted upon by our thought and is the way thought becomes the law of our lives, right? Because it's using the law. So, and then in capital letters, we do not create, we use the power of the one mind which creates for us. So, but what about when we say we create our own reality, right? So this is when we have to remember that we have a tendency as human beings to create shorthand. And we want something. We don't want to have to always explain to ourselves or somebody else all the nuances once we understand all the nuances. So we create our own reality by creating the thought, by creating the intention, by creating the word, and by loosing that word, we actually are setting the law in motion in a new direction, and it is the law which now figures out how to do it and has the power and the intelligence to make it unfold, to bring it about into physical existence. And so when we create our own reality, when we say that, what we want to remember, it is because we are using a law. It would be like saying, well, I drove to Fort Worth. Well, actually, I got in the car and I pushed the gas, the car actually drove me to Fort Worth, right? Yeah. Because that's where the power is. That's what's actually moving me. It's actually the car, and it's all the ways in which the car operates. Whether it's through electricity, like an EV like I have, or the internal combustion engine, right? The car itself has the power. I am deciding where I want to go, and I'm putting my foot on to the pedal because I understand that if I push the pedal, the car will go. And if I push the wrong pedal, the car won't go. Simple, right? It's really simple. And so, again, we have to understand how we use this language and what we mean by it. And so we create because we are using the power with our thoughts, with our expectations. Here, what are we using the power? What are we using the power with? Our beliefs and our deep-seated convictions inevitably outpicture and reflect themselves in our experience and environment, both in the physical conditions of the body and the larger world of our affairs, right? Our beliefs and our deep-seated convictions. And this is, of course, why it is important to listen to our self-talk, listen to what's going on in the background, pay attention to the ways in which we unconsciously expect life to play out. Unconsciously expecting it to be awful, unconsciously expecting things to be hard, unconsciously expecting what the aging process looks like. All of the ways in which we've accepted a sort of human condition as this is the way it is, right? This is all the ways in which we have we have deep-seated convictions. And it's really interesting to pay attention to the way in which we talk about things, because it will reveal to us what our deep-seated convictions are. And our job from a spiritual point of view is not to convince ourselves that the condition isn't what the condition is. It is to convince ourselves of what the process is that brings about conditions. This is the conviction we need, that we actually understand how it works, which is why we spent all that time in the first part of the book understanding how it works, right? Understanding the theory, the philosophy. But now we have to act as though we understand the theory, and we have to put it into practice. Right? And we have to find all the ways and places that we're not really sure or that we aren't willing to apply it. Right? All the ways where we back off and we actually fall into an old belief or an old understanding about how it is. Right? That's it. Sometimes I think we do ourselves a disservice with Ernest Holmes's word belief. Right? It is the expectation and the conviction we have about how it is that is what is continually outpicturing. What we outwardly are and what we are to become depends upon what we are thinking. And again, we want to broaden this idea of thought over and over and over and over again. I'm going to remind you that thought and thinking is way more than, I'm going to have a rational thought. I'm going to have a thought about this and I'm going to just say an affirmation. Right? Thought and thinking is that movement in consciousness. Some of us actually think in pictures. We don't think in words. Some of us think in feelings, right? And we experience life through our sensations or through our engagement with the world in a different way. The point of the thinking is, one, it's a movement in consciousness, and two, we can become conscious of it. So a thought is something that we can be aware of, whereas a belief is a thought that's running in the background. A belief is a thought that we've come to accept as true. And so we can have beliefs and thoughts that are actually in opposition to each other. Right, which is why there is work to be done to either bring these beliefs to the surface so we can look at them and say, no, that's not true, or simply use neuroscience and overwrite them. Right, that's what affirmations do. They simply overwrite a thought that has become a belief, and it's not necessarily a thought we've had. Could be a thought that humanity has had for thousands of years we have just simply accepted as this is the way it is, right? So hang on. One more thing. The sooner we release our minds from the thought that we have to create, the sooner we shall be able to work in line with spirit. Actually, what he really means there is the universal law. Always man, always we use, we never create anything. So we are constantly using the law. We're constantly using thoughts. And so it's a misnomer that we're like going to turn it on. But what we're going to do is give it a new direction, give it a new impetus so that the law can continue to create. It's doing it all the time. That's what has brought physicality into being and brought all of our lives into being, is this one mind, infinite intelligence, and the universal creative process, which is governed by an orderly law of cause and effect. And that is how it works. And all we're doing is using it. And I find it interesting sometimes when spiritual people say, well, I'm not going to use it, because, that would be somehow unspiritual. I'm going to let spirit figure it out. I'm going to let spirit, do it for me, or I'm going to see what spirit wants for me. The problem is that we're always using it. What we want to do, and the reason the idea of thought is even in the conversation, is because we want to consciously engage. That's the whole point. Right, that's what it means to be enlightened. That's what it means to be a conscious being, is to become consciously engaged in the project that is already always going on. So it is done unto us as we believe. So the most important belief is the conviction that we do, in fact, understand how it works, and that we can have authority in the speaking of our word or the setting of our intention, and that the law must then manifest that for us. All right, so we're going to, so let's just say this last thing at the top of page 141. Law of life is the law of thought, an activity of consciousness. The power flows through us. Spirit can do for us only what it can do through us. Spirit is not going to lay it on us. It's going to always, the law is always taking what's already there, or what we decide to shift and change. It can only work for us as it can, what it can do through us. Unless we are able to provide the consciousness, it cannot provide the gift. That's what it means to work with our thinking, is to build our consciousness, our awareness of truth, our acceptance of good, our conviction of our own authority, and our understanding of the process. Right? That's where we are. And it's practice. It's practice, right? It doesn't come full orbed. We don't just say these words and go, oh, I get it. Right? Somebody can teach you how the scales work on the piano and even show you how to move your fingers. But it doesn't become real until you practice. And then you practice and you practice and you practice, and then you get harder and harder and harder pieces of music to practice with, right? As you begin to really become a pianist. And so that's the work, is the building of consciousness. That's why we call it the work, is to do that. All right, so we're going to stop there, and we're going to talk about this conviction, this idea of conviction, and that we actually have the authority, that somehow this idea of it's done unto us as we believe has to do with our authority. So let's talk about how willing are we to accept that we have this kind of authority. All right, so we're going to say good morning to Ryan and Richard and everybody who's out there and see what's going on.
Well, good morning to you, Dr. Peacher. And just for clarifications, you don't have to be a convict to be convicted. Just throwing that out there. There might be a few people confused right now. But good morning to everybody joining us here on campus and all around the globe online.
Yes, but the question is, could you be put on trial for your beliefs? Could you be convicted of knowing spiritual truth? Could you be convicted? Could somebody see it and take you into the courtroom and say, I'm convicting you of being a spiritual person who knows how to use it? So there you go. So
and down the rabbit hole we go. I think this is going to be a very interesting Science of Mind class today. So let's hear from you, right? For the folks here in the room, Darlene, she has the microphone.
We got a whole bunch of hands here. I saw Cindy's and then Carmen's and then Ross's.
There's a whole bunch of convicts in here that have something to say. But
that's right.
But hold on now. I gotta give some instructions to the folks online because we want to hear from you too. So the people who are joining us via Zoom, you can go ahead and hit that raise your hand icon located down below, or as I see somebody's been using it, you can use the chat feature.
Yay, I love that.
And we can bring that into the room as well. And for all of the lovely folks, Buenos dias down there in Mexico.
Yay!
And any Spanish-speaking country that we're playing in right now. And I don't know how to speak Filipino, but good morning to those in the Philippines.
Om Swastiastu. No, that's
Om Swastiastu?
Om Swastiastu is one way of greeting in Indonesia. I don't know if it's true in the Philippines. It's true in Bali.
Okay, well, you thought you were just coming for Science of Mind, but you also get a little linguistics lesson as well, too. So,
maybe they can tell us.
Yeah, maybe you can chime in. Don't put your questions in your language of choice, because I will not be able to read it out loud. Let's just be honest. But we do love to hear from you, so make sure to put your questions in the comments as well, too, and we can bring that into the room. So first things first, we'll go here in the room, and then I do some questions.
Great, we'll bounce back and forth.
We'll bounce back and forth.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
I'm Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
So I just wanted to share into the room something I experienced this week, and it was really more of a subconscious conviction that affected me. I've been caring for my parents who have both been sick. There has been a lot of things and moving parts in my life with a lot going on, and I'd gotten to a point of really heavy stress, and I was leaving their house, and I said very emotionally that I can't do this. And then the next 3 days, I was very, very sick, and I could not do it.
Yes.
I could not go over to their house. I could not help them.
Yes.
And I didn't even realize that I had done that to myself because it was in a subconscious level until last week when we had Science of Mind class, and I went, oh my gosh, I created that. But also, as I've been reflecting on that, I've been thinking about the belief behind that. Because why has this been so stressful for me? It's because I have an underlying belief that taking care of my parents is a burden.
Oh, yes.
My intention at this point, from a place of conviction, is to shift that into having an opportunity to lovingly be present as they go through the latter part of their life, because they're both on decline right now.
Yeah.
And so I have to remove that underlying belief of that. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And
it's
also,
beautiful.
As a spiritual coach, as I was listening to you say hope, when I get in fear, I tend to go to hope.
Yes.
Right? And even though I'm trained to do something completely different, the fear triggers hope and wishing versus the conviction. So it's just a really great reminder for me to really pay attention to that.
Beautiful. I love that. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to our self-talk, right? All of a sudden we realize that, oh, I feel this is a burden, right? But we can start, and then we can say, how do we want to hold it instead? And many of us have this when we realize that we can't do it anymore, we don't actually believe that we're allowed to not do it. And so our body does us the favor by taking us out. Right? It says, oh, okay, great, you can't do this anymore, but I see that you're going to keep doing it unless you are sick. Therefore, boom, you're out. And these are and so this is why it's important to listen and hear these things, because it's not always a straight line. Cindy did not think, oh my God, I'm going to get sick, or oh, I'm afraid I'm going to get sick, right? We sometimes oversimplify it, and it's actually the combination of it's burdensome and I can't do it that actually then manifested as her body saying, well, let me take care of you. We're going to take you out for a little bit. And so, do you see? So we never want to oversimplify this. It's not always a one-to-one. It's not, and sometimes it's not obvious. And this is why self-awareness and self-reflection are so important. All right, so we're going to go online, and then we're going to come back here into the room.
Yeah, so this question asks, how does this process work collectively in terms of integrating beliefs that appear to be in opposition to each other? Beliefs that are opposite and simultaneously believers are one. So I'll repeat it.
Well, you don't have to repeat it. It's okay. Well, because we forget that oneness has become multiplicity. So when we become clear that in the growth of consciousness has been working to develop consciousness that can then participate in creation, right? Which is what human beings are, and wherever else self-consciousness has reached that level of evolution. And so, of course, we can believe different things from other people. I actually can believe two conflicting beliefs myself, right? And I'm one. I'm still me. But I can have two conflicting beliefs that are based on different experiences, different values, different things. And somehow I have to bring that into alignment, or I have to release one belief. And usually what happens is both beliefs are trying to play themselves out, or are in fact playing themselves out in my life, right? Because what's happening in life is just feedback. What's happening in life is history. It's history. It's based on what's been going on in consciousness, and it is playing itself out. So this is why we say what's here is we just have to say this is what is, because it's history. And so these conflicting beliefs can actually play themselves out in our own lives. And so the collective consciousness is no different. There are vast possibilities for different beliefs and different belief systems. And because the infinite is large enough, there's space for all of those beliefs and all of those ways of thinking, because creation immediately implies multiplicity. And then, and those beliefs are not spirit-induced. Those beliefs are not, they don't come from God. They are created out of the biological imperative, the reptilian brain dealing with threat, the limbic brain dealing with being parts of groups, the cerebral cortex growing and being able to become rational, have logic, have intuition, all of that, right? And all of that process over the millennium has created a field, right, of a set of beliefs. Rupert Sheldrake calls it the morphogenetic field, right? It's the field in consciousness. It's the collective unconscious that Jung talked about. It's the Akashic records that Edgar Cayce talked about. And so oneness and having multiplicity of beliefs they're not related. And we constantly try to push everything into oneness, right? And we have to recognize that oneness in its absolute sense is only the description of the wholeness, which includes the absolute reality and the multiplicity of creation. Oneness includes it all. Therefore, just as you and I are different, and we're different from blades of grass and from stars, so we have the opportunity and the possibility of having myriad of beliefs. Of course, just like in our own life, beliefs that are not in alignment with the trajectory of life for life, eventually, if we are aware, begin to show up. We look at the feedback and go, well, that's not what I wanted. That's not how I would like it to be. That's not in alignment with spiritual truth. And we begin to grow and change, develop. We begin to align ourselves more and more and more with ways of being and thinking and doing that we think are in alignment with spiritual truth, or that are in alignment with the way life is moving. And the same thing is happening and is available to us on the collective. We are over and over and over again invited to look at the underlying beliefs of the human race, or of particular groups of people, nations, however you want to look at it, and ask, is this in alignment with the way life is for life? And then we're always at choice, right? That accesses our choice and our responsibility for our choices. It's a great question. It is the way New Thought and metaphysics has to expand. We have to understand that we are part of the collective, and that we must realize that how we are engaging with life ourselves does, in fact, impact that collective consciousness. All right, so we're going to come back into the room.
This is Ross, and I got a couple of real quick things.
Good.
The first is, if I can continue to laugh at myself and be amused by my own behavior, I always have someone to laugh with.
Yes?
And my humanness just shines through, and I get to laugh about it.
Yes.
And I was busy laughing today when you started saying, the law is always with us. I'm going, let us avoid the obvious. It is always with us.
Right.
I mean, every single event that occurs. So last week I told everyone that I started a new program in my clinic. And I said, how am I going to advertise this? So out of the blue, this old friend of mine who was a radio show said, come on my radio show. So next week I'm going to start with that.
I love that.
And second, out of the clear blue, the Amish medical community contacted me. And I've become their international representative for the programs I'm doing. Out of nowhere.
Right. Well, out of the intention you set.
And because I had a very clear intention, this is what I want to do with the rest of the life so far, that I figure out what to do.
Yes. And then the law is busy making miracles, coincidences, serendipities.
And the third thing is, I'm watching as my life changes in unpredictable ways, but they're all positive. Things come into my life and out of my, and going, how did this happen? Because it doesn't feel like conscious volition. It's just a natural outspring of these processes that I continue to use.
Right. Which is so lovely, because that's what it means to develop consciousness. When we develop consciousness and a conviction about how all of this works, we stop having to manipulate the individual conditions. We don't have to figure out, well, how am I going to promote my clinic? We just know the end result is this. This is what I'm doing. And the law goes, oh, okay. And it is the intelligence of how to make things happen. And that's when we're open to the miracles, the coincidences, the serendipities, the out of the blue kind of things. And the more that our life is in alignment with the trajectory of life itself, the more we can, our conscious thought or our conviction might be as simple as everything always works out. And because the law is always with us, it actually has to make that so, right? And it can be very surprising things. Wait, I didn't know that was going to leave. Oh, and then we want to hold on to it, and then we want to fix it, and then we want to, but it could be, let's, if everything is always working out, this too is a part of the process. or whatever new thing comes in. It's beautiful. Thanks, Ross. All right, we're going to go online, and then we're going to come back to Carmen.
Yeah, I just wanted to read 2 comments.
Good.
And then there's a question.
Okay.
So the first comment is a really fun one. It's, hope is the crossroads between doubt and desire. Fake it till you make it. So thank you.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yes, and because we do teach that, fake it till you make it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. The other comment says, I think I've been missing the authoritative part of thought and creating, as I've been expecting things to happen to me, even though I say through me. It's a great revelation.
Man, that is so great. Thank you for sharing that. Right? We don't want to be, what do I want to say? We don't want to be unconsciously, unconsciously over, what do I want to say? This is about owning our identity. And it's basically false humility. Oh, Spirit's doing it. I'm not doing the work. I'm not doing anything. No, the law is making it happen, but it's our authority. And otherwise, we are victims of whether Spirit wants us to have it or not. It's happening to me, and I'm no less a victim, or I'm no less unconscious. So thank you for sharing the revelation. Super, super important, and why we hammer on this idea that we do have authority, and we do get to choose. The universe really doesn't care, doesn't have an opinion. It just knows that whatever we put out there is going to be reflected back to us. So that's a great revelation. Okay, and a question.
And the question that came in, it kind of, for context, it's a classic one. It's, okay, well, you have this thing that we call the human race, right? And some people believe one thing and other people believe another thing. So the question is, can you speak about collective consciousness that includes multiple beliefs? How do you perceive co-creation?
How do I perceive co-creation? How do I understand co-creation, right? Well, do we not sometimes have fuzzy demonstrations ourselves? Because we set an intention to get a new job. Part of us doesn't believe that we're worth the money that we are going to ask for, but by God, we're going to buck ourselves up and we're going to ask for that much money. We've had experiences in the past of bosses that maybe didn't like to work with women, speaking as a woman. And do you see there's a clump of beliefs that is now part of the manifestation process. And we can have the job of our dreams, still bring in a boss that's just like bosses we've had before, maybe not get quite the money that we wanted. It could be better than what we had, but not what we really ask for because we have that belief. Do you see? We ourselves are a conglomeration of beliefs. And so it's the sum total of that is in fact manifesting itself. And so what we want to do is be very clear in our own lives. And we want to dispel anything that stands in the way of us having a job that with a great boss, with the finances we want, and allowing us to do, right? We're basically, when we do that, we're working to bring our beliefs in alignment. So that's not co-creation. We co-create with the law. What that means is co-creation means I set the intention, the law does the work. We say creation when I think I'm doing the work. Do you see, right? What that has a tendency to mean I'm creating my reality, so I better figure it out, and I better make sure, and I better do this, and I better do that. Co-creation is always with me and the infinite, with me and the universe, with me and the law. So the myriad of beliefs that are happening in humanity is no different than the myriad of beliefs that I have myself. And it's outpicturing as a myriad of conflicting outpicturings because there's a myriad of conflicting beliefs. What the humanity is co-creating is with the universe. Here is what collective consciousness is in humanity. And the law is going, okay, well, we're going to have all of that manifesting so that we can see that feels like it's moving us forward, that feels like it's moving us backwards, that's harmful, that's not harmful, right? And even our own assessment about it is going to be individuated, and it's going to continue to shift that the set of beliefs in collective consciousness. Remember that oneness doesn't mean sameness. Unity, does not mean uniformity. It doesn't mean we all have to have the same political system in every nation. It doesn't mean we have to all have the same viewpoint about what makes a nation tick. It doesn't mean we all have to have the same ideas about what's important. We will discover that there are some basic things that help life move forward, and others that cause a mess or really can slow the process down, just like in our own lives. So humanity's choices and beliefs are getting educated in the same way that our choices and beliefs are getting educated by our own experience. So we're not co-creating with each other. We're co-creating with the universe. That's what co-creation means. The individual and the universal is co-creating. Not I'm co-creating with you. So we misunderstand oneness. We think oneness means, oh, it's all about we're one. No. Oneness means the absolute and the relative are one. Spirituality and physicality are one. Infinite awareness and love and peace and beauty and joy and all of that, and the multiplicity of expressions is part of the one, wholeness. All right, we're going to have one last comment here and then we're going to go.
Okay, so this week, what you're talking about, I was driving and so the affirmation I come up with myself is that what I experience today is what I thought about yesterday. And what I don't like today, I could change it for tomorrow.
Yes.
So I tell myself that. And so this week, I said, my words are powerful, so why you just don't speak to it? And so I had to remind myself, and so I was doing that this week, and a lot of things has been showing up. And one thing was really funny is that I said, I want a Kentucky Fried Chicken, $5 bowl. Just want to try it. But where's the Kentucky Fried Chicken? I said, you know what? I'm not even gonna worry about it. Something come, and I really wanted one. And did you know that whole day I seen all KFCs everywhere I went, everywhere. But I really wanted that.
Yes.
And it was like I don't know where I'm at. I don't know if that was too far. But then I said, you know what? I was like a whole entire day. I seen.
You just
all
did
KFCs.
nothing but right.
And it came up where I didn't even realize that it was one even existed over there. And it was just that tension, like you're saying. That I wanted one, but I didn't worry about it. I just trying to stress out, trying to figure out which one, or even make a extra, like, a route to get there.
Yes.
I just let it go.
Right.
And I was like, all these KFCs are right here.
That's
know. But yeah.
Because it's the how. That is the job of the universe. That's the co-creation part. I want this. I'm setting my intention. How do I get it is not my business. I see myself having it, and it's the universe that has to manifest that and show you where all the KFCs are. That is a great, and it's fun, right? It's fun. Play with this, you guys. Play with it on the little things, because then it brings a little smile to your face and you go, oh, that's how it works. And the more little things you can do it with, the more conviction you build. The more you understand, it's not our job to figure out how. Our job is always the what. We get to choose the what. And then we rely on, we co-create with the law. I've given you the what. Now I'm going to be present to whatever needs to unfold. I got to say yes to the call. I got to answer the call. I got to decide, okay, this is kind of out of the blue, but it could possibly be an answer. Let's at least try. Let's at least go down the road and see what happens. Right? That's what it means to work through us. We then are part of the process. No question about it. All right, so we're coming to a close.
Yeah, and on that note, I wanted to let everybody know that if you're interested in learning more about this stuff, there's a really great course that's going to be coming up here on February 4th called Infinite You as the Universe.
Yes.
It's based upon Ernest Holmes' book, this thing called
Yes.
You. And if you haven't read it, this is a perfect course for that kind of stuff.
Who's teaching it?
Avis.
It's going to be Avis Ivis. It's going to be
Ives.
online only. So if you'd like to get registered for it and learn more about it, I'd mention everybody head over to our website. And under the education tab, you can find more about it. Another thing is about relationships, Ross. I'm looking right at you deep into your soul. This is just, anyways, I'm going to look over here at Richard. Hey, Richard, we have a relationship course coming up that Dr. Petra and David Zellman are going to be doing.
Right.
It's on February 2nd, which is next Sunday.
Well, it's 2 Sundays in a row.
Yeah, it's 2 Sundays in a row. And I was mentioning this last week. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday on February 9th, and you're going to get home in time. So don't
Yes,
worry.
you'll get home in time for your Super Bowl party, so don't worry.
Dr. Petra and David
Zellman, the two of us are doing this. It's really,
facilitating.
it's amazing work. It's based on David's transition process and the conversations that we have about ourselves and how to apply this. You can apply it to primary relationships. You can apply it to any relationship. I have had a couple people ask me, is it the same? It is 2 Sundays that build on each other. So you need to come to both Sundays. It will not be recorded. So you need to be here. It's in person only. And so sign up and be a part of it. It's really, we had David last year. He came to us and he talked on a Sunday and he did a workshop. People were blown away by the material. It's really incredible material.
Yes.
And so, so sign up right away.
And childcare is included. It is in the cost of the ticket. So if you have little ones,
And we should say today is the last day of the early bird registration.
Yeah.
So by the end of today, $99 early bird registration. You do not need to be in a relationship. This could prepare you for the next one, right? You don't have to be in a relationship, and it isn't only about primary relationships, but it is somewhat focused on that. And then after Sunday night, after tonight, the price goes up. I don't remember to what, but it definitely goes up.
It goes up. That's all that's important. Make sure you get your tickets now.
Yeah, don't miss out. It's going to be great.
One last thing before we close out today, because it is a fun and interesting topic. It's how to build sustainable landscapes. So if you have a yard, you're looking to build landscaping, for lack of better words, this is a great short class.
And especially with climate change and what's happening, right?
Yeah, and it's led by our Sustainability Circle. And if you haven't heard about the Sustainability Circle, it's a group of really cool folks. I know them personally. They're cool folks. And they come together every month, and they're a force for good. Let's just put it that way. I could talk a lot about that.
So it's only 30 minutes, right? It's online and in person.
Yes, it is online and in person. Starts at 11:45 Central Standard Time. So you can head over to our website and learn more about it by going to the event section and go to the Force for Good section.
Yeah, and speaking of Force for Good, let's also say we're launching the Season for Peace and Nonviolence today, and we have a Vigil for Peace on February 1st. That's this coming Saturday from 7 to 7. And if you're in the DFW area, we'd love for you to sign up and be here, come here. I will be doing an hour-long Facebook Live at noon, right? It is this idea of universal consciousness. We are adding to collective consciousness. We really want you to be a part of it. So again, you can find out more information on the website, February 1st, Saturday. Just go and check out the event.
Yeah, and that's under the Force for Good section as well, too. So we got a lot of good events coming up this weekend.
I know, it's really very cool. It's good stuff.
Fun time.
All right, well, have a beautiful week, and we will see you when we see you. Bye for now.